friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Echo Aftab. Myself Aftab Bhai. In our today's session, we are going to deal with one of the most interesting concepts that we come across economics, and that is we will be speaking about methods of economics, or what is the methodology that we make use of in economics to derive our theories and laws. So welcome to methods of economics. What do you mean by methods? So methodology definition is it is a body of methods, or it is rules and postulates employed by a discipline. It is a particular procedure or set of procedures that we make use of in any discipline. That is what is called as methodology. Every science follows certain methods for formulation of its law, principles and theorems. Remember this point, friends. Every science has a particular methodology. So this methodology, these methods becomes the base for the formulation of their theories, their laws, their postulates, or you can say their axioms. So this is what is method, the meaning of methodology. Since economics is a science, it also adopts certain methods for the discovery and formulation of its laws and principles. Remember, we have proved that economics is both, it is a science as well as it is an art. So as economics is a science, this social science also adopts certain methodology with regard to formulation of its laws and principles. So this entire discussion will be what are the different methods adopted in economics for the formulation of its theorems. For deriving generalization in economics, it has to adopt certain methodology. So when we speak about methodology of economics, broadly speaking, there are two methods of investigation available to the economists. One is deductive method, which means deductive method descends from the general to the particular. And the second method that we make use of is inductive method. In inductive method, it is exactly the opposite of deductive method. Inductive method mounts from the particular to general. So here you can see, here we are speaking from general to particular is you are deducting, that is you are subtracting, or else you can say you are removing, that is from general to particular. Whereas in inductive method, what you are doing, it is from particular to general, that is you are inducting something or you are adding up, okay, you are piling up from particular to general. That is what is inductive method. This deductive method and inductive method is not the methodology exclusively for economics. This is in general the different methodologies that is available for any field of study, and even economics makes use of these two methods to come to certain conclusions with regard to their observations. So here we are speaking about the word observations. So when we speak about observations, so here this observation helps us to come to certain theories either based on deductive method or based on inductive method. Now how this is possible, I would like to throw some insight on that. Now if you have observed one thing over here, the first two alphabets OB and the last three alphabets ONS I have written in capital. So if I start writing the same thing again and again, then and if you observe that, then you will come to certain conclusion. That conclusion, okay, that conclusion, how we are doing it, whether we are doing it by deductive method or by inductive method is what our further scope of discussion. So the deductive method. Deductive method is also known as the analytical method, abstract method, and priori method. So all these three words that you can see over here in deduction. What is analytical? You are trying to make certain analysis. You are trying to make certain analysis. Abstract matlab something that is which is not concrete. That is what is abstract. And priori matlab it is beforehand. It is beforehand, before the event happening. That is what is priori method. So deductive method was strongly advocated by classical school. A point to be highlighted. Deductive method was used or was strongly advocated by classical school. So whenever we speak about what methodology the classical school adopted while deriving the conclusions with regard to the economic theories, that is, they made use of deductive method. Deduction means reasoning. You are trying to reason something. There is a reasoning that is happening. Or inference. So when you speak about inference, what do you mean by inference? Inference, friends, means the act or process of inferring by deduction or by induction. So here again we are speaking about inference. Matlab what you are trying to come to the conclusion, that is what is inference. So here deduction means reasoning or inference from general to particular. Now what is this general to particular? I will give you a very strong example so that this particular concept of deductive method and inductive method will be very soon clear. So there is a general phenomenon which we call it with regard to, it may be with regard to social science, or it may be with regard to human behavior, or it may be with regard to what is the typical behavior of mankind as a consumer, or what is the typical behavior of the markets in the economy. So this is what is we are trying to see, we are observing it. So after this observation that is happening in general, we come to a conclusion saying that this is also true for a particular unit. So deduction means, as I said, it is we are deriving something by observing. We are observing something in general and applying it to every individual unit and applying it to every particular thing. This is what is deductive method, from general to particular. If we are speaking about human nature, that is general observation, we are applying it even to Mr. X, that is to a particular. So this is what is called as deductive method. Now I will give you a concrete example for us to understand what is actually deductive methodology in economics. Not only in economics, friends, in any discipline, deduction applies in the same way, but here I am going to take the example that is applicable to our subject, that is economics. In deduction, we start from a few indisputable facts about human nature and deduce or draw inferences from them about concrete individual cases. As I told you all, we starts from certain facts about human nature and we conclude it that it is applicable to every individual. This is what is deduction. Still the thing is not clear. क्या है deduction? Okay, so see here, I'll take an example. We all have studied the law of diminishing marginal utility. When we were in our 11th standard, when we studied the concept of utility, we came across, this is normally the first theory that every student of economics studies in his 11th class, the law of diminishing marginal utility. What does the law of diminishing marginal utility says, friends? It says, as a consumer goes on consuming any unit of a particular commodity continuously, then what will happen to his utility? His utility will go on diminishing by every consecutive increase in the consumption. So here, this is what is law of diminishing marginal utility. So this particular law, is it common to everyone? Yes, any person in the world, you can see this particular law of diminishing marginal utility is applicable. Why? Because it is a human nature. Law of diminishing marginal utility is based upon how consumers behave. It is an integral part of human nature. So now, if law of diminishing marginal utility is an integral part of human nature, from this what we can take out, or what thought comes to our mind? If law of diminishing marginal utility is a general phenomenon, it is a part of human nature, then from this I can say first inference, rich people derive less utility from fixed amount of money than the poor people. So see here, what it is telling, if the units goes on increasing, your marginal utility goes on decreasing. This is what is we are telling. So anything that we are having in abundance, anything that we are having in abundance, we value it very less. So anything that is more with us, its value is very less for us. That is what the simple अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट ह्यूमन नेचर. हमारे पास जब भी कुछ भी बहुत हद से ज़्यादा हो, उसकी हमें उतनी कीमत नहीं रहती है. सो सेम, सो इफ दिस इज अबाउट ह्यूमन नेचर, then I would say that rich people derive less utility. So rich people are having less utility. Their utility is less for a fixed amount of money. So let us say 1000 rupees. I'm just giving you an example, 1000 rupees. So rich people are having less utility for 1000. This less utility, what I'm telling, it is, I'm comparing it. I'm speaking not in terms of absolutely, but I'm telling it in relatively. So compared to poor people, the rich people are having less utility for fixed amount of money. If but the same 1000 rupees for a poor person will give him more utility. So this first inference, this first deduction, from where it came? It came from our understanding about human nature, that anything if we are having in large quantities, we value it less. So here this is abundance of units, and value I'm telling in terms of utility. So this is what is the general the general human nature that we observe. So from this observation, we concluded that if this is the general observation, we concluded this particular thing. What is the thing? Rich people are having less utility as compared to poor people with regard to a fixed amount of money. This was the first deduction. So on the basis of this, we can have second deduction. Now see, we are moving. See, from what we are moving? From human nature, about human nature, we deduced some logic, and based on that, we came to our first inference, and after first inference, we are moving towards our second inference. Now, what is the second inference? The second inference is proportional taxes leads to less tax to rich people and poor are more burdened. Now the same thing as I told, if the rich people are having 1000 rupees and if the poor people are also having 1000 rupees, so this was our first conclusion. So the rich value it less. The rich are having less utility for that, but the poor are having more utility from that. Now let us say the government comes into the picture and it says 10% tax to everyone, 10% tax to everyone. Now this word to everyone means I am speaking about proportional tax, irrespective whether you are rich or poor. for every individual the tax is same. So in this case, the rich people, how much tax they are paying? 10% of 1000. How much it is? It is 100. And the same 10% of 1000 for poor people, even for them it is 100. Now you can see, if this rich person, if he is having not 1000 rupees, but if he is having, let us say, 1 lakh rupees, how much tax he is paying? He is paying 1000. And if the poor person is having 1000 rupees and 10% tax if you are taking from him, it is 100 rupees. So this rich person, for him it makes no difference to give this 1000 rupees as tax. But for this poor person, you can see, for him 100 rupees is a big amount, because what is left with him is only 900 rupees after taxation. So this wide difference that is there, it is because of proportional tax. That is the reason proportional tax leads to less tax to the rich, and poor people are more burdened. So I'd like to say, if this is the case, then why not to tax rich people who are having more income, more tax, and poor people who are having very less income, very less tax. So you can see now 20% of 1 lakh rupees. So how much it will be? 20% of 1 lakh. That is 20 divided by 100 into 1 lakh. So he will be paying 20,000 rupees. I'm sorry, this is a little correction, 10,000 rupees, and 5% of 1,000 rupees. So how much a poor person will be paying? 5% into 1000. So he will be paying just 50 rupees. So this is what is the huge difference. Tax more to the rich and tax less to the poor. Then this particular system is called as progressive taxation. Friends, how did the government decide to go on for proportional tax or progressive tax? This particular conclusion, that rich are less burdened by proportional tax but poor are more burdened. So in order to bring the equity in taxation, we applied progressive tax, and this is what we came to the conclusion. So this is our second inference. Thus we can say the principle of progressive taxation is directly derived from law of diminishing marginal utility as a result of deductive reasoning. So what we can say is, the principle of progressive taxation is derived from law of diminishing marginal utility. So law of diminishing marginal utility was there. Then from that we came to the conclusion of progressive taxation. So this progressive taxation is the thing that we deduced from our human nature. So this is what is from general to particular. So in general, if human nature follows law of diminishing marginal utility, so on the basis of that we came to the conclusion that every individual, that is every individual faces the problem of proportional taxes, and it is better to go on for progressive taxation. So this is what is the inference from general to particular, and this is what is called as deductive methodology. I hope this example made you clearly understand what is the meaning of deduction. So in deduction, from a few basic facts of human nature, we can derive a large number of inferences. So friends, based on law of diminishing marginal utility, we came with first reasoning, first inference, that this is with regard to rich people and poor people with regard to money. Then we came to the second conclusion with regard to proportional taxes. Similarly, we can have third inference. Third inference, I'll give you an example. Third inference with regard, it may be with regard to elasticity of demand. Then friends, I want you to just think over it and have an example of, from this law of diminishing marginal utility, what fourth inference you can deduce, what fifth inference you can deduce. You can speak about this thing to your concerned teachers and come out with very interesting examples, so that it becomes more clear for you that from one general phenomenon how we are deducing various facts and information and applying it to every individual unit. So friends, this is what is deductive methodology of economics. Then comes the inductive method. Now we are moving from general to particular, we are just taking the U-turn. So we are reversing our analysis. Inductive method is also known as historical method. Historical method, something that has already happened. It is empirical method. What do you mean by empirical analysis? What do you mean by empirical studies? Friends, empirical means based on experience. It is with regard to based on experience. Opposite word of empirical is, the opposite word of empirical is theoretical. Something that is in theory, you are trying to find it by doing a research and trying to come to a conclusion. That is what is called as empirical evidence. And the inductive method is also known as posterior method. Posterior matlab something that has happened afterwards. Priori matlab beforehand. Posterior matlab something that has happened afterwards. So who advocated inductive method? Inductive method was strongly advocated by historical school. Induction is the process of reasoning from a part to the whole, from particular to general, or from individual to universal. See the words that we are making use of here. From a part to the whole, from particular to general, from an individual to something that is universal. See here, there is something that is happening at an individual level, at a particular level, and after studying the facts about this thing, you come to the conclusion, if it is true for the individual, then it is also true for the general population. This is what is inductive method. I'll try to give you a very simple example. In mathematics, how we make use of inductive method. So in mathematics, how you make use of inductive method? I will say that 1 into 1 is equal to 1. I'll prove it with some axioms that 1 is to 1 is 1. Then I say, if 1 is to 1 is 1, then 2 into 1 it may be 2. Then that also I'll prove it. Then I just check, if 1 into 1 is 1 and if 2 into 1 is 2, then 3 into 1 can also be 3. If this is also proved, then I can say there is no need to find the proof of other numbers. Then it is applied. Then it is applied. If 1 is to 1 is equal to 1, if 2 into 1 is equal to 2, it is applied that 75 into 1 is 75. It is understood that any number that you take under the earth and multiply it by 1, you will get the same number. This is what is the reasoning from particular to general. That is, you are trying to find out something about one individual and you are generalizing it and telling that it is applicable to all the individuals. You are studying about one human being and you are telling this person, my friend Mr. X, when he eats first gulab jamun, he feels very happy. But from the second jamun, he says it is not as good as first with regard to satisfaction, because already his utility is fulfilled. And for third gulab jamun, he says, "Nako, enough." If we force him, he may eat it reluctantly, and for fourth jamun, he will definitely say, "I don't want." So if you saw this, your Mr. X friend is doing this, and then if you see this thing, even if Mr. Y is doing the same thing kya, and if the same thing Mr. Z is also doing, then you will say all the individuals, they will say no to eat gulab jamun after a particular level. That is what is from particular to general. This is again, as I said, the reverse way of checking it. But here what I am trying to do, friends, I am just not observing and concluding. Here what I am trying to do is I am trying to test this observation. This is the important part of inductive method. I'll give one more example. According to Bacon, it is an ascending process in which facts are collected. Very important point, friends. Facts are collected. These collected facts are arranged, and then general conclusions are drawn. So we are speaking about facts. In deductive method, we were just observing and we were concluding. Here we are observing, we are just not only observing, we are after observation collecting the facts, and on the basis of the facts we are coming to a conclusion. This is a big difference between deductive methodology and inductive methodology. Induction may be described as a technique of practical approach to the problems of economic science. So here when we speak about inductive methodology is a technique of practical approach, whereas deductive methodology is the technique of theoretical approach to solve the problems of the economy. See the difference, practical to theory, practical, theoretical. This practical is nothing but something that is empirical. This is the difference between induction and deduction. So the inductive method, generally how we come to the conclusion under inductive methodology. So here there are two forms through which we can make use of to come to a conclusion in inductive method. One is through experimentation and the other is through statistical approach. Now we'll go through what is experimentation and what is statistical approach. I have come to an end of this session. After completing this, we'll just have a brief look about what is static economics and dynamic economics. So here, friends, experimentation is concerned with testing. As I told you, testing. What we are testing? We are testing the validity of laws or something that is generalized as a result of deductive reasoning by resorting to the study of actual facts. See, now I am bringing all the things together. Under deductive reasoning, what I spoke? I spoke about human nature. I spoke about law of diminishing marginal utility. Under deductive method, we came to the conclusion directly here. Under deductive method, friends, directly we came to conclusion. This was happening in deductive method. But in inductive method, what we do? We are having a different thing. So if this is what is our observation, then under inductive method, what we do? Under inductive method, we don't directly jump to conclusion. We try to test it. How do we test it? There are two ways of testing it. One is through experimentation and the other is through statistical analysis. And after this statistical analysis or experimentation, for statistical analysis, we just don't do statistics, we collect the data, we collect the facts, and then we will try to test these facts, and testing of these facts is called as hypothesis. So something that we are speaking, this is what is our hypothesis, friends. You can see here, I'm just changing the color. So this is our hypothesis, and we are trying to test this hypothesis, and then we say, oh, so if this is the case, whether to reject the hypothesis or not to reject, and this will be our solid ground with regard to inductive reasoning. So inductive reasoning is not that simple. It involves various steps. These steps, it can be in the form of experimentation or it can be in the form of statistical analysis. Very quickly we'll go ahead. Under experimental methods, cause and effect relations are established within a controlled set of the laboratory. The moment I use the word controlled setup or the laboratory, here friends, we are speaking about pure sciences, because in pure sciences we are doing lab testing, we are doing, so friends, this is with regard to pure sciences. Here we are doing lab test, and under lab test everything is controlled, everything is controlled. It may be law of gravity, law of motion, it may be any experiment that you are doing in chemistry lab, it is any experiment that you are doing in biology lab, all the experiments that happened with regard to coronavirus, okay, it may be with regard to vaccination of coronavirus. So all these experiments were done on in controlled environment, and that is what is experimentation. But it is very tough for us to apply this experimentation on human beings. So what we do, we go on for statistical approach. Statistical approach is concerned with framing of laws and generalizations on the basis of facts, on the basis of facts collected from various sectors of the economy. In other words, we proceed from particular to general. Now see, in statistical methods, a problem is studied systematically. A problem is studied systematically as in the experimental methods, but the system used is not the same. In experiment method, the system is different. In statistical method, the method is different, but both are scientific in nature. Now I'll give you an example. Now, if what is this, friends? Yeah, these are birds. So what the birds are doing? The birds are flying. So can we say all birds fly? Yes, this is what is our observation. Okay. Then from this, can we go on for deducing penguin is a bird? So can I say all birds fly? Penguin is a bird. Can I say penguin flies? Will it be right? This thing that I have written over here is what is called as deductive reasoning. You are generalizing something, you are telling that all birds fly, and you are applying it to a particular bird. This is what is deductive reasoning. Now, as I said, it is indisputable fact that birds fly. It is deductive reasoning. Now, me saying that penguin is a bird and penguin can fly. So, in inductive methodology, we don't accept the conclusion. We go on for experimentation. And while we did the experiment, we took the penguin and we took it to such a level to see that whether it can fly. It was not able to fly, but instead of flying, it was falling. So this thing, we came to know that penguins, though they are birds, they cannot fly. This was turned out to be checked through an experiment. And then we say that like penguin, there are 8 more species of birds that cannot fly. So saying all birds fly is a wrong deduction. How did we come to know that it is a wrong deduction? We came to know about wrong deduction because we went through inductive method of reasoning. So this is what is the difference between deductive methodology and inductive methodology. So here I took the experiment of lab. I am taking the experiment of laboratory, which is under controlled environment. Laboratory is always under controlled environment. But human beings, can we do the experiments for human beings in laboratory? No, we are in a social setup. So here friends, such experiments are possible in physical and natural sciences but extremely difficult in the science of economics. Human beings have their own will and interest. Their behavior is unpredictable. They cannot be treated as guinea pigs. Human beings are not guinea pigs. So laboratory experiments have controlled environment, but experimentation in real life has dynamic setting. I'm not telling that experiments cannot be done in the real life. Friends, there was a famous experiment done by Mr. Banerjee and his wife Esther Duflo. Can you guess about whom I am speaking? I am speaking about, I'll give you time, think over it. Yes, I am speaking about our economics Nobel laureates Abhijit Banerjee. I am speaking about Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo. Who are these people? So these are the people, husband and wife, who have won the Nobel Prize in economics. So these are the people who won. Along with him there was one more person, Michael Kramer. So why they won the Nobel Prize, friends? I'll just tell you. The reason for these people winning the Nobel Prize was for their experimental approach to reduce poverty. Experimental approach to reduce poverty. So they conducted random trials. They conducted random trials. What is this random trials, friends? When I speak about random trials, I'll just give you an example. They observed that most of the school kids, they observed that most of the school kids were absent in school. Okay, I'm speaking about most of the school kids were absent. There was large number of absenteeism. So what this Mr. Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo along with Michael Kramer did, they said they tried to find out what is the reason, and they went on for randomized controlled trial. And here what they did, they started giving the school kids a deworming tablet, a deworming tablet, and this deworming tablet, it is albendazole. And after giving the deworming tablet, they saw that the absenteeism reduced and the attendance of the students increased. So they came to the conclusion it was because of the stomach pain of the small kids that most of the time they were staying absent. So this was possible for them. I just gave one small simple example about their study. So this is what is experimentation on human beings in a trying to do it in a controlled environment, and this fetched them something called as Nobel Prize. So actually it is Nobel in economics is called as is called as Swedish government gives it. It is called as Severus Ritsvingske Prize in Economic Sciences in the memory of Alfred Nobel. Remember, it's not the Nobel Prize. It is presented by Royal Swedish Academy. Okay, it is also called as Swedish Riksbank Prize in Economics. So friends, I'm just telling you how important the topic that we're studying is, that through this topic, if you understand, people have won Nobel Prize. So if experimentation is very costly, time consuming, and it requires huge amount of financial resources and human resources, then the alternate approach is statistical approach. So statistical approach as a form of induction was advocated by German economists of the historical school. So statistical method is also known as econometric methods. What is econometrics? In econometrics, we make use of mathematics, statistics, and try to prove the theories that we have studied in economics. So it is the integration of math, stats, and economics measurement. That is what is econometric method. So economists have developed a specialized technique known as econometrics, which applies to tools of statistics to economic problems. As I told in the previous slide, that we collect the data, we collect the facts, and we test it. Testing of hypotheses, framing of models. Which models? Economic models. That is what is done in econometrics. So it is a statistical approach. Using econometrics, economists can analyze huge data and extract simple relationships. What type of simple relationships? I'll just give you an example. The simple relation is that because the prices of a particular good is increasing, its quantity demanded is decreasing. So this equation, this model we came up after observing, collecting the data, and after collecting the data, going on for econometric methods, okay, using statistical approach, and then coming to the conclusion that this is what is happening, that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This is, we proved it by using statistical approach, by using statistical technique, and that is a very important branch of economics, econometrics. Then friends, deduction or induction, it will become more clear with you with this last thing. So in deduction, as I told you, what we do, there is an idea, we observe, we conclude. So you can see this, I have taken it from this particular picture I have taken, the source is from danielmessler.com. So here what we do, there is an idea, based on the idea we observe the things and we directly conclude. What is that? All men are mortal, all men die, all men die. So Aftab, that is myself, is a man. Conclusion is Aftab will die one day. So this is what is deduction. But in induction, what we do? In induction, we observe, we analyze, and then we come to the theory. Now see here, what we are observing in observation, it is I break out when I eat peanuts. When I'm eating peanuts, I fall sick. This is the observation. So they didn't come to the conclusion that all people who eat peanut, they fall sick. No, here I am telling I break out when I eat peanuts. So this case was analyzed, and then they came to know after analysis, this is a symptom of being allergic. This is a symptom of being allergic. So on the basis of this analysis, they came to the theory that I am allergic to peanuts. So allergic to peanuts. And then we can generalize it, telling that anyone who is allergic to peanuts, they will fall sick. So this is what is induction methodology. I hope I have cleared this, one of the most confusing concepts that we come across in methodology of economics. And quickly we'll have a look about the another way through which we look at economics. So conclusion, deductive or inductive friends? Both deductive and inductive methods are needed for proper development of scientific and economic theories. Without deductive, there is no induction. Without induction, it's very tough to go on for deduction. So both are a very important part. Both are complementary to each other, then competitive. So modern economists first derive economic hypothesis through the process of logical deduction. So they come with deduction, and on the basis of this deduction they go on for framing the hypothesis, and then they try to empirically test the hypothesis through econometric methods. So what is happening here? Both deduction and induction we are making use of to derive economic conclusions or conclusions regarding to economic setup. So friends, what is this? A person walking. Will this person be able to walk only with one leg? No, he needs both the legs to walk. So this is what Alfred Marshall has said. Marshall has rightly pointed out that induction and deduction are both needed for scientific thought, as the right leg and left leg needed for walking. So if one feat of ours is deductive reasoning, the other is inductive reasoning, and both of these are important for us to move forward with regard to economic theories. So friends, here I stop about what is deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Next we'll see what is static analysis and dynamic analysis. So what is this? What is the thing you are seeing in the picture? There is something static. You can see there is a camera, and when you click this camera, there is a picture that is captured. This picture is captured in the camera. So if I have taken this picture today, let us say today's date is 1st of January 2021, then what will happen to this picture on 1st of January 2022? Will it change or will it be the same? Sir, it will be the same. That is what is it is being static. Then see, I'll show you one more image. What you can see in the image? Wow. See, here you can see in the womb of a woman, you can say a kid is moving around. Is it a picture? No, it's not a picture. So friends, this is, I would like to say, if this is a picture, this is a motion picture. That is, when we start it, it is not the same. When we start it, it is not the same. It will be moving continuously. So you can see from here at this moment to this moment, from this moment to this moment, what is happening to the picture? The picture is continuously changing. The position of the baby has changed. See, it was sitting, now it is trying to turn around. So this is what is called something that is dynamic in nature. This is what is called something that is dynamic. This is for us to simply understand what do you mean by static and dynamic. Nothing to do with economics. On the same logic, I would like to move ahead and say how we can do economic analysis through dynamic spectacles or through static spectacles. So friends, static analysis refers to the economic phenomena of the same period. It is with regard to the same period, and time factor has no role to play. There is no role for time factor to play. It will be clear to you what this statement means. In the functional relationship, if a functional relationship is established between two variables whose values relate to the same point of time, the analysis is said to be static. So if I say quantity demanded is a function of price, which quantity demanded? Today's quantity demanded depends upon today's price. So we are speaking about two economic variables. Two variables. Which are the two variables? These two variables are quantity demanded and price. So both these variables we are speaking at the same point of time, that is today. So we are speaking about today's demand and today's price. This type of analysis is called as static. Whereas in dynamic, what it refers, economic dynamics refers to that analysis which considers the relationship between the relevant variables whose values belong to different time periods. So यहाँ पे क्या था, same point of time, static. यहाँ पे different time periods it becomes dynamic. So what does it mean? I'll tell you. So I'll just change the color of my pen. So when I'm speaking about static, quantity demanded is a function of price. So this is, I'm telling it is static analysis. It is static analysis. Now what is dynamic analysis? See the change. In dynamic analysis, what I'm telling is quantity demanded is a function of price t plus 1. What is t plus 1? Today's demand is affected because of tomorrow's price. Matlab, sometimes we know na what happens if the government announces that tomorrow the petrol price is going to increase, then what will happen? You'll see a huge rush in the petrol pumps today. So this, what is happening, the two economic variables. One economic variable we are speaking it in terms of today's date, and the other economic variable we are speaking in terms of some future date. So this same thing I can write it like this: today's demand for a particular commodity is a function of price of yesterday. So in both the things, it may be the future price or this particular price which has already changed and how it is impacting today. So normally if you see stock market, the stock market prices that is there, yesterday the price has changed and today there is a huge momentum. Something like this things are happening where the economic variables are relevant variables we are speaking, but their relationship with each other is in terms of different time periods. So it is when the time periods are different, then such analysis becomes economic dynamics. So friends, this simple concept, static and dynamic analysis, I had to bring it over here because it is one of the most forgotten part when we are dealing with economics. And the student of economics who are studying economics in their first semester of graduation, it is a must and should know concept irrespective of the fact whether it is there in the syllabus or no. So friends, with this, I would like to come to the conclusion that when we are speaking about methodology of economics, there are basically two methodology. One which is based on logic. When we speak about logic, under this we are having deductive methodology and inductive methodology. To prove inductive things, we make use of either experimentation or statistical approach. Then the other methodology to understand economy is with regard to the time element. So when we speak about time element, there is static analysis where the economic variables are often described in the same time period, and there is dynamic analysis where the time periods differ of the relationship between the various economic variables. Full stop. So friends, in my next class, we'll see what are the different types of economic activities. Again, one more interesting concept. So till my next class, take care of yourself. Thank you very much for being with me, for encouraging me, and thank you very much for being with Understanding Economics with Professor Aftab. If you are liking this video, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share my video and channel to all your friends. So till my next meet, till my next session, take care of yourself, keep smiling, be happy. Tata, bye bye.